Now, going into The Last Jedi, the biggest mystery for me wasn't who are Rey's parents. That question, despite the seemingly infinite number of theories, had only two reasonable answers for the story they seemed to be telling. She would either be the daughter of Luke Skywalker, or she would be nobody, and as we now know, it turned out to be the latter. What really intrigued me, however, for many reasons, was who or what Snoke would turn out to be. And among those reasons was his origin offered basically a chance to bring something completely fresh and new into Star Wars. A chance to add a whole new level of depth not only to the saga movies, but the franchise in general. Here was a chance to have a completely new type of villain brought to us who, though on the surface seemed to be like all the rest and just wanted to rule the galaxy, may be up to something else behind the scenes, and that was an exciting thought. Another reason I was eager to learn more about Snoke is because I'd wrongly assumed he was going to be what drove the story forward going into Episode 9, that he was going to be the MacGuffin, or what would ultimately need to be stopped for us to get a happy ending. And so, again, learning who or what he was and what his motives were was exciting since it was at the core of what the whole trilogy was going to be about. But then, of course, he got sliced in half, and a lot of people say that was the most shocking or surprising part of the movie, and I suppose it was. Problem is, that ultimately spoiled how the movie was going to end, and maybe even how this whole trilogy is going to end. Because as soon as Snoke died, a series of things were now destined to happen in this movie. First, there was no way Kylo Ren was coming back to the light, and though that seemed unlikely in the first place, a main part of this particular movie was about Rey's attempt to save him. But as soon as Snoke was gone, we knew that could not happen, because we'd then essentially be out of villains if he came back to the light, or at least force-wielding villains that would require a Jedi to deal with. Another thing we knew had to happen is Luke Skywalker had to die, because Luke and Rey versus just Kylo seems like the biggest mismatch in the history of a galaxy far, far away. I mean, Rey has already defeated Kylo Ren once, so what's she going to do to him now with Luke in her corner and Snoke no longer in his? And sure, you could say the drama in Episode 9 could have been centered around both Luke and Rey's struggle to bring Ben back. But where's the drama if they ultimately fail and Kylo needs to be destroyed? Again, that feels like a task Rey and Luke combined would have had no difficulty achieving. The last thing that we knew was going to happen, though again it was something we could safely assume anyway, was that Rey was not going to fall to the dark side and accept Kylo Ren's offer to join him. Because then you have the exact same problem you had with Kylo going to the light side, only in reverse. Instead of no villains left, we have no heroes left. Of course, if you did turn Rey to the dark side, then you could say that Luke wouldn't have to die, and in Episode 9, it could be Luke's struggle to save both Ben and Rey. But the problem with that is, why does Luke care about saving Rey? He spent about a day with her, and it's not like the two really bonded in that time. And yes, that problem could have been solved by making Rey Luke's daughter, but then the whole story has to change to somehow show a type of rapport being formed between the two, or otherwise Luke's efforts to save her are going to feel a bit hollow, and maybe even a little questionable considering how he treated Ben after his fall to the dark side. I mean, sure, Luke would no doubt still try to save his daughter, at least I'd like to believe he would, but it would feel off that he gave up so easily on this nephew that he had known and trained for years, not even lifting the proverbial finger to do anything to save him after he fell to the dark side, or to do anything about his reign of tyranny across the galaxy. And now would be all about saving this daughter that he had known for a day. And sure, there is certainly a degree or two of difference between what one would do for a nephew compared to a daughter, even one they barely knew. But if Ben and Luke spent all those years together, I'd have to imagine, Jedi or not, he likely almost began to think of him as a son. So, as surprising as that twist with Snoke seemed to be, it essentially locked the story of Episode 8 into an easy-to-predict outcome. It has also pretty much done the same with Episode 9, despite many seeming excited about this blank slate that they can now do anything they want with in the closing chapter of this story. First, killing off Snoke has basically destroyed any chance for Kylo Ren to ultimately do anything good or right in this trilogy, a chance for him to begin to atone for his sins like Vader was allowed to do by destroying the Emperor, at least in a way that impacts the balance of the Force. And you then may say, but he already killed Snoke, and that was a good thing. Problem is, he did it for selfish reasons. He did it because he wanted to be the one to rule, not because he wanted to destroy Snoke for the good of the galaxy. And I'm not saying that having Kylo turn on his master to save the galaxy, or even just someone he cared about, and coming back to the light at the end of this trilogy would have been a good choice for the story, considering how closely it would have mirrored Anakin or Vader's story. I certainly get that doing something different with Kylo is a good thing, But the problem is, there isn't much wiggle room to actually do anything different with him. The only big question left with this trilogy going into episode 9 is, can Rey bring Kylo back to the light? And with the likely absence of Leia in this next episode, it really will be up to Rey and Rey alone to do that. And I know a lot of people have said that Kylo Ren is going to do something different from Vader. He's going to save himself. But the question is, why is he going to save himself? He's not going to change for no reason. People rarely do. Him, on his own, suddenly realizing everything he's been doing is wrong, is not only going to be difficult to show in the movie, but does not seem at all like his character. Because when you consider after he killed Snoke and freed himself from a presumed hold Snoke had over him, he had the chance to go with Rey and become something else right there and then. And he had the chance to do it with someone who was genuinely starting to care about him, someone that understood him and related to him. But he chose the dark side. In other words, his first instinct upon freedom was to embrace being evil. So it's going to be very hard, in the span of one movie, to show why and how he had a change of heart and would now have a self-revelation about himself and come back to the light. Another problem episode 9 faces without Snoke is you've essentially turned Rey's entire story into just dealing with Kylo Ren, because that's all she's really done in the first 2 movies, and it's the only thing left for her to do in this third and final movie. And yes, I'm sure they'll show how she's become the hero of the new rebellion, and that she's inspiring future Jedi across the galaxy or something, but ultimately, she is likely going to hold Kylo Ren's fate in her hands. She's either going to save him or have to destroy him. And if I had to wager a guess right here and now, I would have to imagine she will be forced to destroy him, at which point she will take on the Skywalker name, thus ending the story of the Skywalker family, and yet at the same time not, because it will also leave the door open for episode 10 someday. However, my real hope for this final movie in the trilogy is that somehow Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost will make an appearance and speak to Kylo Ren and play a part in bringing him back to the light. That Rey's story in these movies can somehow be something bigger and better than just having to deal with Kylo Ren and deciding his fate. Snoke, of course, could have offered that, and it's much too late to bring in another new unexplained threat. But if Anakin, the one who started this whole story off in the first place, can play a significant role in ending it, well, I think that could be an ending a lot of people would both enjoy and find fitting. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think. Was killing off Snoke a mistake, or do you like what it means for episode 9? Do you think Anakin Skywalker should be a part in ending this story? Let me know in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.